Lead and Empower Her with Dr. Julie Ducharme, the show that takes you around the world to share interviews with some of the most successful and relevant people on the planet. Hear their stories and get the most important business lessons they have learned on their road to success, and get exclusive advice on how to implement their success into your life and business. Lead and Empower Her with Dr. Julie Ducharme is brought to you by the Strategic Advisor Board and your host, Dr. Julie Ducharme.
Hi, I'm Dr. Julie Ducharme, back for another episode of She CEO Talks. Very excited because I get to talk with women around the world who are rocking it in their industry and share us their true and vulnerable stories. And we're really excited. We've hit the top 1%, over 1 million downloads. And that just means that the stories of women are reaching around the world. And so I'm so excited today to have Rachel with us. She is a world-renowned sound healer, energy healer, spiritual channel for purpose-driven, high-achieving professional leaders who are ready to unleash their full potential and power so they can fulfill their desires and make the massive contributions they are here to make, which I love that, because you're saying make the massive contributions that they're here to make. And obviously I love both I love my male counterparts, but I see a lot of women who I don't think reach their potential like they could. And I think we're our worst critics. I'm definitely to blame of that. And I think when I'm my worst critic, I'm not reaching my full potential. So I'd love to hear your story of how you came into becoming this renowned sound healer and energy healer.
Wow. Well, first of all, Julie, thank you so much for having me all the way across the pond here in England. It's really an honor to be here, and it is quite a story, so I'll try not to do it too long. But how did I end up being a sound healer and an energy healer, and actually fulfilling my potential as this healer? Because I certainly wasn't born into this world. It wasn't that I grew up knowing I had all these abilities and these gifts and I was going to become a healer. It really was, I was brought up in a family of actually, like, dad's a judge, mum's a nurse, a very sort of black and white, this is how life is and there's nothing beyond what you can see. That was how I grew up. But as I got older, I was feeling like I don't fit into this mold of the rest of what life is telling me. I didn't feel like I fitted into that. And I actually trained, of all things, to be an opera singer. So throughout my 20s, I was in the world of singing and opera, which was an amazing world to be in. But what happened to me during that phase of my life was, and maybe some other people will resonate with this, was I was actually in a world that was quite harsh, quite critical, and quite, you're not good enough, and a lot of failure, a lot of rejection. In that world, you're auditioning, you're on stage, you're being criticized a lot. And I struggled with that. I struggled with that to the point where I decided that I came out of that world and I decided I don't want to sing again. I don't want my voice to be heard. I'd had so much rejection that my only way of protecting myself from failure, from being rejected again, was to go, oh, I just won't put myself out there in the world anymore. I'll retreat. Which I think probably maybe some people can resonate with. That was my way of protecting myself, was to go, I'm just going to take myself out of that world and never do it again. So I had this beautiful voice that I shut off from the world because I was too scared of being rejected.
Mm.
And the criticism and the failure and all of that. So that part, I sort of parked that part of my life. I thought, okay, that's over. I'll go and get a job in the real world. I'll go into the corporate world. I need to make a living now. What am I going to do? So then I went into the corporate world and came across a lot of. I spent a couple of years there as I speak French and German, so I was actually a bilingual PA, a bilingual assistant, executive assistant, and came across this bulldozer of a boss that kind of literally knocked me over for 2 years. And I was surrounded by a lot of people. And I remember sitting there thinking, no one's happy. Everybody's stressed. What am I doing here? And I left. I actually had to, and this maybe will resonate with some people. I used to drive to work on the motorway, having panic attacks in my car
Mm.
going to work because I didn't want to be. Part of me knew I wasn't meant to be there, and I didn't know how to get out of it. So I was dealing with a lot of stress and anxiety at the time, and my only way of getting out of that was to, I have to leave. I have to get out of here. This is not good for me. Very fortunately, I had a partner who's my husband now at the time who was like, "You're not going back there, Rachel. This is not good for you. You need
Mm.
to come out of there." And I did. And that segued me into thinking, okay, right, well, I'm not going to sing anymore. I'm not going to be in the corporate world. What am I going to do? Um, and I had my only way of dealing with it was to because I was having a lot of stress at the time. I actually trained to be, this is very random sort of career change as such. I actually trained to be a massage therapist.
Mm.
That was my way of beginning to heal myself, and that was about 15 years ago. And I think basically that segued me into the world that I am now in. That was my transition into the world that I now am in. But for me, it was a safe way to transition to it because I could still explain it to people. I could still explain, oh, I'm doing massage. People understand massage, they still get that. They weren't spiritual things was too much for me to try and explain to my family. So I sort of said, right, well, I'm going to be a massage therapist because people understand it. But what happened then, further on down the line, was as I'm turning 40, I'm starting to feel this sense of there's more, and I think maybe this will resonate with a lot of listeners. I was coming up across a lot of I was quite depressed actually, and I didn't show it as you do. You meant, I didn't want to show that to the world. I didn't want to show people that I was down, that I wasn't happy. But what I was fighting was with myself because I was looking at everyone else thinking, gosh, they're successful. Gosh, they look happy. They're doing better than me. I was seeing my family having these amazing careers, and I was sort of running my own business, but it wasn't really fulfilling me. So I was filling myself up with negative self talk, negative this, negative that, and crying most evenings. No one knew this. Like we were very good at hiding this, aren't we? Apart from my husband who would see it. And I remember we were in the kitchen one evening. This was about 6 years ago now. And I was crying, and he said to me, and it's always stuck with me. He said to me, because we've been going around in circles, and he said to me, but Rachel, do you really want to change? He said, because from where I'm looking, it doesn't seem to me like you want to change. And that really struck me. I thought, wow, I'm going around in circles and I'm not making any changes, because what I was looking for was for other people to come. I was waiting for someone to come and save me. I was waiting for maybe my husband to sort me out. I was waiting for someone to come and sort me out, until I realized that the only person could do that, and that was that conversation that led me to that, was to go, oh, I have to do something about this.
Mm.
This
Yeah.
is this comes from me. And that was my trajectory 6 years to. And from that moment, I remember just saying, okay, I'm going to focus on myself. What do I need? I started meditating. I started opening up a lot more to my intuition, to my gifts, spending time on myself, taking care of myself, putting myself first. And I remember saying to the universe, some people would refer to the universe, to God, to source, whatever you resonate with. I said, all right, I'm ready. I said, show me what you want me to do, because I know I'm not meant to be just me on my own in this massage room anymore. I know I'm meant to be much bigger than this, but I have no idea what that is.
Mm.
And from that moment, it was almost like boom, boom, boom. I stopped massaging. I said to my clients, I said, I've got to start healing. I've got these gifts. I know I've got them. I can't hide them anymore because it's killing me, literally. It was shrinking my energy so much, and I knew they needed to come out. And that is what has led me onto this journey of doing what I do now. And very, very quickly, once I said, okay, I'll start using all these healing gifts that I have, and we can talk about that if you want. Um, Within about 2 or 3 weeks of using all these intuition and these gifts and this understanding of people's energy and what was wrong with their body and what their traumas were and helping them clear them, I started singing to my clients. It was
Mm.
almost like my voice that I'd trained in as an opera singer for so long just went boom. And I said to my client, I remember saying it to her because it was so emotional. I said, I need to sing to you because there's frequencies within your body that are stuck. There's trauma, there's emotions that are stuck. And if I sing to you, this is going to help clear them. And it did. And since that moment, I've always, always, always now bring singing and sound into
Mm.
my sessions to help people to heal.
Wow,
And
I love
that's
that.
been the trajectory of now
Mm.
I have clients all over the world. I lead mass healings, and this was because I decided to make myself a priority and go, I'm not going to hide myself anymore.
Yeah, that's powerful. What you're saying resonates with me. Many years ago, I was in that situation. I was in a very toxic situation at work. I was same thing. I drive to work and I would just hate to be there. And I became very unhealthy. My hair was falling out. I was starting to have panic attacks. I was even getting UTI infections because I wouldn't leave my desk enough. And I mean, I think as women, we're very loyal and we're problem solvers. And we stick in those situations so much longer than we should. I see men all the time just go, I'm out. I'm not even going to deal with that. And then us women, I mean, I stuck it out in that situation for 6 months till I was literally so sick. My doctor was like, you have to stop or you're going to have a heart attack. And I think as you tell this story, as women, at least that's what I see is like we think we can solve it, right? Like, oh, I can make this better. I can figure it out. I was worried people were going to think I was a failure because I was in this big position. Um, and like you in the opera, when they were just very critical, I kept letting them tell me that I wasn't good and all those things. So as you talk about that and like shutting down and creating those barriers, it really makes a lot of sense to me. And I think a lot of other women, because I did that. I was like, well, if I create this barrier, then no one can hurt me anymore, right? But that barrier was stopping me from finding my full potential. And as you said, we have these traumas. And it's really interesting. I was talking to a woman so she actually works with horses and helping horses overcome certain types of trauma when people are having issues with horses that are having fear, stuff like this. She talked about as well as you did, the sound part and
Yes.
releasing the trauma. And she said that horses will release their trauma much faster than humans do. So I just find it's really interesting that she's talking about sound, you're talking about sound, talking about trauma. And so I want to segue into, so what are some of the different ways that you work with people in this with sound healing and the other one you mentioned, energy healing?
Yes. So I work in different ways. I work with clients privately, and then I also work with clients in more of a group process where I can do meditations for groups of people. Um, so in the terms of the sound, and this is what I find absolutely fascinating. So I'm maybe is a gift, it is a gift of mine that I have. It's part of who I am. I'm able to, when I have someone sitting in front of me, I'm able to really like feel, okay, their emotion, whether that's a grief, whether that's a pain, whether that's a sadness, whether that's anger, or if there's something within the body that's not flowing as it should. Maybe their body is slightly out of alignment. So when I use the sound, sometimes it works in two ways. So sometimes, especially if someone's got a lot of grief, let's say, or sadness that's within them that's just wanting to come out and they're not able to let it out, I will sing to them the most beautiful angelic sounds. And these sounds just help the body. It sort of stops them thinking about it, and it touches the body on a deep, 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 deep level that allows the body to go, oh, finally I can let this grief go. I can let this sadness go. I can let whatever it is that I've been holding on to, I've been scared to release, I've been worried about letting it go. I've not especially grief. Sometimes we feel bad about letting the grief go because that means that we're letting go of someone from our past, or we're getting over something. So
Mm,
when the sounds come through and allow and just I just sing these to them, their body's able to go, oh, thank goodness, I'm
mm,
just going to release that. And it's very healing.
mm,
And then and sometimes it works the other way around, in that sometimes someone's got a lot of repressed anger, for example, or frustration that they've never really allowed out of their body. Perhaps they were told when they were growing up that anger's not good, you shouldn't express anger, or they weren't allowed to express that anger as a child. It wasn't accepted because anger is quite a strong emotion, and sometimes as parents we don't allow children to really allow all their emotions out. Children, they don't feel like they're accepted, so as we grow up we repress the anger and we hold it in a lot. And so sometimes what I'm actually doing is I'm feeling in the body where that anger is sitting. Often it's in the gut or it's in the liver, and I feel it. And actually I express the anger for clients. So sometimes I'm actually making really loud, unpleasant sounds, but that's because I'm finally allowing the body to express emotions that it's trapped for a long time and never thought that it was allowed to express. And I'm giving the body permission to allow the emotions out.
Mm.
Does
Wow.
that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, no, I'm just intrigued being a researcher myself. I
Mm,
know there's been a lot of therapy in sound and music, and I spent a lot of time working with veterans
yeah.
who are dealing with, everything from PTSD to sexual trauma.
Mm,
And so, I think about this and the power of it, and as you're talking about it, and music is so therapeutic. It
very.
really is, right? Like I always think like we can all find our favorite song. We know the music we put on when we want to relax, right? Like when I want to relax and take a hot bath, I'm listening to Andre Botticelli, right? Like just it's like it's so soothing, but if I want to be like rocking, I'm listening to maybe Pink, right? Who's like, empowering. And so as you talk about that, like that just it makes sense to me, right? Like it just like wow, there's power in sound, and we all soothe ourselves through some type of music, right? And when my kids were little, I would play, the soft soothing music when they were trying to sleep at night, right? Or different things like that. So it just the way you're talking about it, I just find it so interesting and so intriguing and so true because
Mm,
that's what we do, right? Many of us turn to some type of music as therapy, and it just makes sense. Now, is there a difference between your sound healing and energy healing? Because I want to just kind of understand it myself.
okay, so I suppose so when I'm when I'm working, the two things combined. I can't
Okay.
do one. The two things work
In hand in
simultaneously.
hand.
They
Okay.
work hand in hand. So when I'm energy healing and I'm sound healing at the same time, a lot with
Okay.
me anyway. So, but in terms of energy, so I am able to feel. So through my hands, I'm able to feel energies. I just do. I feel a lot through my hands. So when I have a client with me, even all my clients I generally see online. So, for
Mhm.
example, Judith, you're with me. I'm seeing you as a client. I'm able to feel, so I can feel within your body. Okay, Julie's got there's something in Julie's I'm not saying that there is, but I'm just sort of hypothetically saying this. I can feel where there's something stuck within your body. I was seeing a client the other day, and I just said to her, I said, oh, I just feel all this stress in your chest, and I could just feel it. So actually I actually use my hands a lot, and I actually feel where it lies in the body. I see it, and I actually um, I know it might sound strange to some people, but I actually just work at helping the energy to remove. And I use my hands a lot to actually imagine releasing and clearing the stress that might be within you, or the emotion that might be stuck there. So I actually do a lot to actually unpick and remove and clear the blocked energy within your body. And I
Mm.
don't need you sitting in front of me to be able to do that. I'm able to connect with you wherever you are, feel it, go, okay, just going to help begin to remove that out of your body.
Hmm. Yeah. No, thank you for explaining that because I wanted to understand kind of the difference of the two and how they work
Yeah,
together.
yeah.
And so, yeah, with you, it works hand in hand.
Hand in hand, I do them both at the same time. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
mean, so a question that I have, because obviously, like I said, I work with a lot of people who deal with trauma in their life, whether it be from war or childhood. And something I hear a lot of times from a lot of different people is they feel like their trauma is trapped inside of them. And so when working with you, is that something that is it like a progression, right? Like, do I need to work with you six, seven, eight times to try and see how I release that trauma out of my life? And the reason I'm just asking is because I think trauma is it's so different with every person, right? And so as people are listening to this podcast, I want them to understand like how do they work with you? Is there someone sitting here listening going, God, I have all this trauma from my childhood. I was molested by my uncle and I've never dealt with it. And I'm, this year's old now. And we have other women who, bad relationship. I was in a toxic marriage or a volatile marriage or even maybe domestic violence, and maybe it's not that extreme, but I know when I talk with a lot of these women, it's like they're trying to figure out how do they release this? How do they move forward? Is it going to just go away or is it like a progress?
Wow, so many amazing questions. And I I have seen and witnessed a lot of trauma through the clients that I have worked with, abuse, childhood, all kinds of things that um so I'm able to, first of all, I feel able enough to hold and witness someone's pain, because sometimes it's quite excruciating what some women have been through. And so that in itself doesn't phase me in the sense that I'm able to hold it for you. And that to first of all, that helps clients feel safe enough to go that they're not what it's not going to scare me what they're saying and what they're telling me, because sometimes even to share your story with some people have to go, oh, I can't deal with that. That's quite a
Mhm.
lot, isn't it? So just to be able to witness it and hold that is really important. But in terms of the process of it, yes, for me, how I've seen it work, and over many years that I've been doing this now, there is a structure and there is a process to this. And because often the trauma is very is it happened a long time ago, and there's a lot of fear around releasing it, because it's how let me try and explain this. So it's a much of a layering process. So initially, when I begin to work with a client, we don't necessarily go straight on into the trauma. We release what needs releasing first, that they're presenting with initially. That might be some emotional things that they're struggling with currently in their life. Sometimes we have to go back and do quite a few sessions to release things, to be able to get to the, let's imagine an onion. We need to get
Mhm.
to the center of the onion, but first we need to peel off all those layers that are around it. um, and then once we've done that, peeling the layer, then we can get really into, okay, the root of what is behind this trauma. What did it often it's caused them to feel like, so whatever happened to them, whenever it happened to them, it's made them feel like they can't progress in their life where they are now. It's stopping them from being seen, it's stopping them from speaking out, it's stopping them from progressing their career and their life in some way, because they're scared, they're fearful because of what happened to them. They're fearful about, well, if I'm seen more, someone might hurt me, if oh, there's all kinds of reasons behind why it stops them from moving forwards. But if we can get to the root and really get them to help heal what happened to them when they were a lot younger, and free, it's almost like we have to free them from what happened at the time. Once
Mhm.
we can heal and clear and release that, then it means that their current life can change, because they're no longer held back. They're not scared to speak. They're not scared to be seen. They're not scared to, they, I've worked with a client who was so traumatized that her whole house had just become this. She was just trapped in clutter. She was so
Mhm.
scared to let anyone into her life. She'd surrounded herself by clutter, because
Mhm.
she didn't believe she was worthy of a life any more than that, because of what happened to her. But when you go back and help them release the pain of what happened, that then changes how they turn up in their life, and they'll feel like, oh, I deserve a better life. Now I'm going to clear this clutter. I'm going to buy myself some new clothes and feel happier about myself. All kinds of things happen when they release the emotion and the pain and the sadness of what happened to them, because some people feel like they don't deserve anything different. They feel that,
Mhm.
that they're only that the trauma has really affected their self-worth.
Mm. Yeah. No, I appreciate you explaining that because it is true and I agree with you. I think we all have some form of trauma in our life, right? I mean, I grew up with a great family, but throughout my life, there was absolutely moments of different things that happen. And fear, as you mentioned, is so powerful. And we talk about that a lot in She Talks, overcoming the fear that is stopping us. Because people say, oh, well, what were the barriers that stopped you, before you got to success? And I was always like, me. Is
Yep,
is
absolutely.
I can't tell you. I mean, sure, I met some mean people along the way, but they didn't stop me from moving forward. I stopped myself. And so I think there's a lot of power in that. As you talk about these different things, and we're coming to the end of the podcast, and I want to make sure that our listeners know how to get a hold of you. So what would be the best way for them to reach out to you?
So the best way, if they're curious, the best way would to go to my website, rachelwayte.com. And there they can sign up to a free healing. It's called Find Your Peace. And it's a 45-minute long healing that they can get access to. And they can do this in their own time. They can go there. They can listen to that. They listen to my speaking. They can listen to it's a lovely meditation that they can listen to. And they can access that as a way of, entering into my world. They can find me on Instagram. I'm easily findable there as Rachel Wayte. I do also have a really lovely community that I hold off social media on WhatsApp, where I post lots of inspirational things for people just to go, oh, I'm wanting a bit of help with my day. So I have a little community there. It's very private, very safe. Only I post in there. It's not, not one where people are going back and forth all the time, because I think that's overwhelming. But it's another way of being able to access me and just, get those little nudges to support people as they're transforming and changing their lives.
Yeah, that's perfect. And for those of you who might be driving in your car right now, working out, thinking, wait, I didn't get to write that down. Don't worry. We will put all the links in there, and you guys will be able to access them when you go to the podcast. Also, of course, you can always message me and I will get you connected to Rachel too. And I think it's absolutely worth checking out. We're about to inherit another 10,000 women into our She Talks membership. And probably one of the most important things for me, for these women, is not just creating a sisterhood, but also creating safe places for them to be part of and safe people for them to be with. And something we've learned as women is we're tough and we're awesome at what we do. And a lot of times we don't deal with our trauma. I mean, that's just, we put ourselves last always, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy, but culturally, for some reason, we think, well, we'll just put ourselves last. And I'm really focusing on, especially our She Talkers, putting themselves first, and really focusing on what they need to do to move forward, because women are such a force in this world. If we can take off, like you said, the layers and the fear of what we're doing. So I really appreciate you sharing today your story, your heart, what you're doing. I think it's amazing. And I think we're going to need to do some type of mastermind with She Talks with you and get that set up. And now we have so many women over in England. We may just need to do a She Talks over there. So that we can get out to you guys too. We need to get out in that direction. So I love this. Thank you so much for being on the show. And as I always say, ladies, live, love, laugh, and always be your authentic self.
Thanks for listening to Lead and Empower Her with your host, Dr. Julie Ducharme. Please leave your feedback and visit strategicadvisorboard.com to get the latest and greatest business advisement on the planet. Follow us on social media for updates, and we'll see you on the next episode.